Hello and welcome to the Claret Blue podcast match preview for Aston Villa's trip to Brentford on Saturday afternoon. This podcast is sponsored by NordVPN, and if you want the best discount code available, there's a link in the description. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson. John Townley, you look a bit different. What's happened?
It's been a hard week trying to follow the Villa with all these outgoings. It's just aged me tremendously.
Hold your hair out.
Yeah, literally. Unbelievable and unrecognisable.
Yeah, well, we'll discuss John in a second. Rob, thank you very much for standing in at very, very, very short notice. I appreciate it. Are you looking forward to the first away game of the season?
I never look forward to Brentford. I think I've still got PTSD from the Championship days when they used to regularly school us.
Good record since they've been promoted, though. Or since
there has. I think, to be fair, it always seems to be a game that we make hard for ourselves rather than it always seems to be a labour when we go down there. And I'm not entirely sure why. I think it's good that Ollie Watkins generally tends to show up against his old club with a point to prove. But if I think of some of the recent games down there was the big tear-up, wasn't there, where Mopé was involved? And was that another one where Martinez got sent off? Somebody got sent off.
It was Kamara.
Was it?
Kamara? Yeah, I think Kamara got sent off against Brentford.
Sent off, yeah, because there was a bit of skullduggery. No surprise he's ended up at Marseille.
Yeah, the comments will tell us if that was right in a second. Just generally, before we get into the specifics of Brentford, we've not chatted on a podcast for a long time. It feels a little bit, I don't know, somber maybe around Villa a little bit. The way that the last game of the season happened, the frustrations throughout the transfer window, the PSR stuff, and then the first game of the season not exactly going to plan either. I mean, a point decent, whatever, but performance wasn't great at all. Do you have that same kind of feeling, or are you still kind of excited about where Villa are heading generally?
I'm still excited about the way it's heading, to be honest. I think, was it Morgan Rogers this week has said, he understands that people are perhaps feeling like that, but also it's the same squad of players that almost won whatever it was, 9 games on the bounce at the back end of last season. The fact that we showed gut against Newcastle, which hasn't always been the case. Yes, we didn't play great, but we got stuck in and put in a performance, whereas too often we've rolled over against that lot. I think speaks volumes. I think we do seem to be trying to play a little bit differently, but quite whether we've got the personnel for that through the doors this summer remains to be seen. I think Ramsey's potentially a loss, particularly if we're going to look at Maatsen as an overlapping fullback. But I think Gassond will bring us something very different as well, and I would expect we'll see a couple more people in now.
Yeah.
I don't know a huge amount about Nicholas Jackson. I know that he played really well under Emery at Villarreal. I've seen his famous misses that always appear on social media when they happen, but all players miss chances. I think the one thing he brings that we still completely lack, and I feel like a broken record every time I'm on talking about this, but we're just still light on pace. If you look at what Newcastle did to us when Konsa got sent off, we're not doing that to anybody now that Rashford's left. We've got no counter attack in us at all, and that's got to change.
Yeah, and Emery said in his presser today that the window or transfer business wasn't done. I don't have the quotes directly in front of me, but there's some kind of expectation that there will be bodies that come through the door. Now, Zach there in the comments said, "Are we even able to sign Asensio or Jackson? PSR's killed us." It's SCR more so, the wage structure and bringing the wages down and trying to raise the revenue, and that's not an easy fix. But that does make me uncomfortable talking about it because we don't know. We don't know the ins and outs of the club's finances. I don't want to say, well, yeah, we should be able to make a move for Jackson, surely, right? Because that I'm guessing. So I don't want to kind of spread something that I don't know. I would actually like Jackson. I have spoken about him on this podcast before when he's had some of his misses against Villa, and is he that good? I did a little bit of that with Rashford, to be fair, and then I was happy with him in Claret and Blue. If we can sign Nicholas Jackson, the fact that Emery's worked with him before and wants him again, that's a big kind of green flag for me, a big green tick. I would expect he'll either play kind of the Diaby role, maybe, in behind Watkins or out on the left. I don't think he's played loads of football on the left, but I think he could potentially.
No, I'd still want to see. I'm glad we saw that first game of the season, Rodgers playing on the left, because when he first came to the club, that was where he was really destroying fullbacks that couldn't cope with his physicality and his power rather than needing pace.
Yeah, I like the idea of potentially, I mean, guess on, we don't know enough about him to say, like, is he a definite starter? Eventually, maybe, yeah, and hopefully we spent 30 million on him. But guessing on the right, Jackson behind Watkins and Rodgers off the left feels good. Matson bombing on down the left, Cash hopefully contributing a little bit down his side as well. There's just a lot of the financial element of the Jackson stuff that concerns me a bit. A full transfer fee? No, don't think that's doable. A massive loan fee with an option to buy is a massive risk. I think we spoke about this a little bit before, Rob, but if it's an obligation to buy and it's a pretty hefty loan fee, you kind of we've talked about that as being a bit like a deposit. It comes off the obligation almost, if you think of it that way. If the transfer fee in the summer is 40 million and we pay an 8 million loan fee now, it's kind of like we've signed him for 48. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does. But I think, I don't know if there's one thing we can be sure of, it's that the people running that part of the operation, and it's sad that we're so early into a pre-match preview and we're talking about spreadsheets and stuff already. But as John McGinn says, that seems to be the way the game's set up these days. I think I think the people that we've got taking care of that side of the business are very astute in terms of what they're doing. I've thought over the course of the summer as well in terms of the tears from Emi Martinez for the last home game last season. And the more this summer's gone on, the more I've thought, is it that he was looking to leave, or is it that the players had been told, or at least were acutely aware, that if we didn't get Champions League, then somebody was going to have to go. Somebody high profile on big money and big wages was going to have to go. And so perhaps he's walked out there thinking, as much as I don't want it to be, this could be my last game at Villa Park.
Yeah.
And then even though he's been asked about it over the summer and kind of given, kind of dodgem answers, I think, again, he's kind of got to do that. And so I think the club have been very much aware that, that if we didn't get Champions League, then there was going to be casualties and it was going to completely change the direction of travel over the course of the summer.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's something they weren't prepared for. I very rarely see anything at the moment that we feel, I think, we wouldn't be prepared for that. There was talk of Cash going back to Forest earlier in the week, and a few people were saying, well, how's that going to work out now? We've got to find a right back last minute. No chance. They'll already have a list of 10 replacements. Yeah. So I feel quite comfortable that whatever they do, I don't really want to worry about the financial side of it. I've got to trust that people who earn far more than we do, specifically for running the numbers at our football club,
they must know more than us, right?
You'd like to think so. I've also got a little bit of a conspiracy theory around PSR as well, but I don't know if we're into sharing it. Well, it's not really a conspiracy theory; it's more of a hunch.
Okay. Well, you've piqued my interest now, so you have to tell us.
Got to do it. So I think with Manchester City's 115 charges, that we will get an answer to that after the transfer window closes. And I think it's going to come out in Man City's favour, or at least it will result in some sort of change to the rules, which will then mean that Villa will be able to get absolutely kind of top dollar for sponsoring Villa Park and Bodymoor Heath. And this is where it gets into conspiracy theory territory, is that as much as we sometimes call Villa Park Fortress Villa Park, and we haven't lost a league game at home for a year, but it's been interesting that on the social media they've been referring to Fortress Villa Park, back to the Fortress, whatever, quite
getting us ready for the official sponsorship.
Yeah, and that's Wes Eden's investment company. So potentially it's then a way for him to say, right, £100 million a year in sponsorship for Fortress Villa Park, which is a good name that we're all already familiar with. It's better than being like AXA Villa Park or, whatever else it might be. And I think the reason all this will happen after the transfer window is because otherwise it will be a free-for-all. If that was announced tomorrow, Fortress Villa Park is done within 12 hours and suddenly we're going out signing a load of players and it'll just cause chaos. Whereas I think the Premier League need time to get it to bed in. So we'll see. I'm sure this will get clipped up and used against me in the future when none of it happens, but it feels like a plausible scenario that something's about to change, and that's why we're sitting tight at the moment, not just getting bodies in for the sake of it, not just getting anybody to sponsor Bodymore Heath or the stadium. I feel like there's something brewing. I hope there is anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we like a conspiracy theory, Rob, and that might get clipped up because you're right, and you'll be the first person that's discussed it. So,
can you imagine?
Somebody write down the time and the day, please, and I'll come back to this either way. Right, we're going to get a bit of a presser update from a mysterious John Townley. Where is he?
Unai Emery's press conference now. Going to battle the motorway. Takeaways from Unai's press conference. So, we'll start with a bit of transfer chat. Emery basically suggesting that Villa are nowhere near done in the market. He wants 2 players per position. I did push him on how many players that would be. Didn't get a number back though. If you kind of go through it, as we will, I'm sure, on the podcast now. There's certainly some areas where Villa are still short. Emery did also talk about players possibly leaving, but I don't think there's a whole lot to kind of infer from that. We still have Illing Jr., Dobbin. Alex Moreno hasn't been, as I recorded this, officially confirmed as a Girona player, so it could just be that. But it's the transfer window, you never know. In terms of Brentford, Emery, as always, expecting difficult games, saying that Keith Andrews has basically followed on from Thomas Frank, and although it's a new manager, many of the kind of same principles apply. Also, of course, they've lost some key players, haven't they, Brentford, over the summer, and could lose some more key players. I did see that I think they've got a few back from injury, but this is a game that Villa have to win, you feel. It's not, I don't like the must-win territory, especially so early in the season, and so I'm not going to call it must-win, but it's certainly a game where anything but 3 points, and I think Villa would leave the GTEC Community Stadium disappointed.
Well, John Townley off to battle with the motorway, and that's why he's not back. He's still not back, as far as I'm aware. This podcast was supposed to be about 4 o'clock. He messaged me, it's going to be like 4:30. Then again, my Google Maps now says 5:15. I was like, okay, well, we can push it back a bit. And it was 5:55. I was like, mate, it's not that far away, Bodymore Heath. So best of luck to John, wherever he is at the moment.
Who knows?
Hence Rob stepping in. However, as John is not here, he can't set the agenda, telling us what to talk about next. So we're not going to do that. We're not going to do transfer chat because he's not here. Is it must-win territory? Would you label it must-win, Rob?
I think so.
At least in the sense of officially say that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think must-win more from a perspective of the message that it sends out to the fans and to the rest of the league.
Yeah.
Really, I
think
we would feel very, very. Yeah, I think any negative feeling around the club would be amplified by us not winning tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think it is, and I think as well, if I look back at last season, it was this sort of game that we didn't win away from home. That obviously we beat them last season, but if I think of Ipswich and some of those sorts of games where, yes, the last game let us down, but we shouldn't have been in a position where it was a last game shootout. There was enough games against teams that really are miles off where we are or where we would aspire to be that we didn't beat, and we've got to change that if we want to be getting after Champions League places on the regular. We can't be relying on winning 9 straight games to end the season every year. It's just not realistic. And away from home as well. That is something that needs to be improved. You can't really rely on Fortress Villa Park to be a fortress all the time, and that will sting a little bit if that is the official name and we're not winning there. The home record has been good for 2 seasons. Yeah. But you've got to make sure it's good for a 3rd season then to kind of build some kind of some foundation, I guess. But to say are Villa going to be unbeaten for another 18 games at home? Probably not. You can't say that's definitely going to happen. Yeah. So these kind of games away from home, of course you're going to lose games. But
I think you'd look at this one tomorrow if we were to lose it at the end of the season. I don't expect Brentford to finish any higher than 15th, and that's me being really generous. So if you weren't to win, you'd have to say the summer they had, the new manager, our first away game of the season, you have to kind of be winning those games. To say Villa must win is a bit, it sounds weird because it's the second game of the season. But in the context of the two opponents, this isn't cocky or arrogant. We're way better than them. You've got to just be putting these teams to bed. You've got to be more ruthless now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, realistically, we were one dubiously disallowed goal away from being a Champions League team for 2 seasons in a row. Yeah, of course, this is the team that we would go out there. We're certainly not they're the underdogs in the game, so without needing to be arrogant, that's the reality of it. I think we've got a good chance, but we have got to improve our away form. It let us down way too often last year. We seem to be defending more resolutely over the last few months, where at one point we just looked really sloppy. We still make some mistakes, but we look far better defensively since probably February. But again, I think it's still pace that lets us down, particularly away from home. I don't think it's any coincidence that the away form picked up when Rashford signed. And if I think of the away game at Brighton as a prime example, he got away, and other than Malen, we haven't really got anybody else in the squad that would have been capable of doing that. But Malen's an interesting one, and I know he's come up a bit in the comments as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a minute.
Point is he going to get a chance? Because we know he looks a player. We were all excited when he was signed, and he's not really had a chance yet. And I can understand perhaps why he wasn't a starter against Newcastle, but it feels like the sort of game that you want somebody like him. So as much as Brentford and the home fans will want them to come onto us, if you've got Daniel Malen, the front end of the Villa team, then you've got something to think about if you lose the ball.
Yeah, we'll talk about Malen a bit more in detail when we do an 11. I keep scratching my face because I've got hair somewhere and it's really annoying me.
Oh, sure.
Well, there isn't much left of it, Rob. Before we get to Malen, let's do the other side of the pitch first, the defenders. JP says in the comments, really surprised that Emery named Bogard as our third centre-back available for the weekend. I don't know whether you saw the quote specifically, Rob. It was on the Villa website of we have 3 centre-backs, Tyrone Mings, Pau Torres and Bogard, which is interesting that that's what Emery sees as his position. Now, I've not seen the full press conference, I'll be honest. I don't expect... Well, you're the guest, Rob. Who's playing centre-half? Conser obviously is unavailable, so who plays?
I wouldn't be surprised if he surprises us and goes with 3 centre-halves.
Do you think?
I don't know. I mean, it's not tended to work out for us, I know, but then more in like a 3-4-3 type of setup. I feel like because it's Friday and the end of the week, perhaps I'm coming out with all sorts of bizarre theories today.
So do we.
But part of me is because he's always seemed so averse to playing 2 left-footed central defenders. And I thought at the time that Torres came in that we were really looking at that was where he was going to try and get us to, was 3 central defenders with Torres and Conser either side of Mings in the middle, of being like the man mountain, and then you've got 2 there that can kind of move the ball around, play with the ball. So I think I'd be surprised if he went for 3 central defenders away from home. I wouldn't be shocked. I would think that it could be something we would see sooner rather than later. It just depends on what he thinks the right setup could be, and I think having a 3 at the back like that would, it does give us the opportunity with it's Maatsen and Cash wide, and then your 2 midfielders, whoever they might be. Does he go with a 3-4-1-2 type of setup, or I think it gives us a lot of flexibility. Whereas consistently playing the 4-2-3-1. It does sometimes feel like we're shoehorning players into positions.
Oh, 100%.
Notably, John McGinn as a prime example, where, I think that there are formations out there that would more naturally suit some of the players that we've got, and not just to fit them in their right position, but because I think they could play well in those positions. But Bogard as a central defender, well, he played there a bit over the summer, didn't he? And by all accounts, did well. I think depending on what we think Brentford are going to put out in terms of forwards, might determine whether Bogard gets a game, because he's not super tall. But then, Pau Torres isn't a powerful defender either. I mean, none of them are except for Tyrone. So I would expect Ty to be the nailed-on starter, and then it'd be a case of what he puts next to him, and then who would you put if it's the two left footers? Who plays as the right-sided centre back?
Here's what I think. Then let's read these quotes.
Right.
When we're playing 4 competitions this year and hopefully more than 50 matches, we will have circumstances like we have now. Tomorrow, we have enough players, and there are another 3 centre-backs, Tyrone Mings, Pau Torres and Lamar Bogard. We are working with those 3 players, and tomorrow we will play. Now, again, I've not seen the video, and Emery's English is better than it was, but there is still some things, and I know this from John, from the transcripts that he has, you think, that doesn't really make sense, and you need to tidy it up a little bit. We are working with those 3 players, and tomorrow we will play. I don't think that means we will play with 3 defenders. I don't. Why would he say that?
I didn't get it from the full quote either. It was literally just. Okay. I think any two
that away.
Of those
you wouldn't say
3,
we're playing 3 at the back.
Any 2 of those 3 feels like we're under strength, whereas the 3 of them all together then presents an entirely different setup. Does Kamara, is it a 3-1-4 something where then you've got potentially Kamara sitting as the anchor and he drops into a back 4, and then one of Mings or Torres slots in at left back and Bogard at right back. So we can be a 4, we can be a 3 in attack. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting that I thought Kamara was brilliant at
I did as well. I did, and part of me feels like you. Part of me feels like you do that, to be honest. But I think Emery's quotes tell me that he's not going to play Kamara in defence. He says, "Well, we've got 3 defenders," so I think it'll be. I don't think it'll be Mings and Torres, and this could look stupid literally in a few hours' time. But the 2 left footers thing, it's never happened. I don't think they've played a single minute together for Villa, ever, even on the pitch at the same time. And then one goes, I don't think they've played a single minute together. He likes the left side to be a left footer, right side to be a right footer for balance. You come on your preferred side and go that way. Having 2 left, I'd be amazed if it was Mings and Torres. Cue this clip going out and looking stupid at 2 o'clock tomorrow. I'm all for it. I think it'll be Bogard and Mings. That's my prediction. I think by saying we have 3 defenders, they're who I'm going to pick. We have 3. Mings is your left footer, and there's 1 right footer. So it kind of has to be Bogard. And I think it'll be Mings over Torres as well, just for that. We play well with Mings players. And he started the first game. I think that continues. So my back 4, 5, if you want to include the keeper. Martinez obviously comes straight back in. He's Emi Martinez, as well as Marco Bizot was last week. Emi Martinez plays. Cash, my right back. Bogard, right centre back. Mings, left centre back. Maatsen, left back. That'd be my defence. Matson's got to start playing more. That's
I would think so, yeah. And it feels like that sort of game. Partly, do we know if is Wissa likely to be involved? What's the situation?
No, I think there was some quotes from their manager that like he's still a Brentford player for now, and he's trained with us. But does he play? I don't know. I wouldn't think he would.
Lot, does it? Yeah,
I don't think.
I think that makes a difference because he's clearly a real threat. I think what would be interesting with Bogard playing is if he's going to be a central defender, he's a ball playing centre half. He can pass the ball and he's comfortable with the ball at his feet. So it could well be that's where they see him.
If they think he's a right centre back and good enough to be understudy to Ezri Konsa, and Konsa isn't available, well, then it's Bogard's shirt, and there's not really much more talking about it, is there?
Yeah.
So we'll see tomorrow. That's one of the big talking points. It's a bit of a conundrum, but I'd be stunned if it was Mings and Torres together. I really would. For me, that right side will be Bogard or Kamara, but I think you lose so much by putting Kamara or taking Kamara out of the midfield.
Yeah.
Just on a balance for the team from If Villa want balance, it should be Kamara and McGinn in midfield, Rodgers in the 10, Malen left, Watkins up top, and a new right winger. I'm unsure if we'll sign another right winger. I think Malen and Gesson will be those choices eventually, and McGinn will play out there at times as well. But that 11 there doesn't feature Yuri Tielemans, and he has to play.
You'd think so, yeah. I don't know if I entirely agree with that comment.
McGinn and Kamara in the middle against certain teams, maybe if Tielemans needs a rest. But if you're picking a best 11, Kamara Tielemans is one of the best midfields in the league.
Yeah, totally. I think Tielemans is that good. Any notion of him not playing, well, as evidenced last season, any notion of him not playing is ludicrous.
Yeah, I wonder if that commenter has started to write out a team there thinking, this sounds good, and has just forgot Tielemans, because surely that has to be in there.
Yeah, I also would worry about having McGinn in any sort of anchor role. I don't think he's got
I think he's better a little bit further forward
for that. Yeah, I think further forward and him being able to harass defenders or defensive midfielders is interesting. I actually prefer him on the right side of midfield than I do on the left. But yeah, I still struggle a little bit about kind of where's McGinn's best position for us now. He seems to play well further forward for Scotland, but because we don't really, or up to this point, we haven't really played that high press type football where him just running around getting on everybody's nerves, is perfect. I'm still not entirely sure what his role is as a regular starter for us. I think there's some games that would really suit him and others where like you'd rather have Gassond playing on the right wing because he's just so much more of an attacking threat. And apparently defensively he's strong as well.
Yeah. Good closing down numbers and pressing and whatnot. Linux in the comments says, Aston Villa confirmed Lewis Dobbin has joined Preston North End on a season-long loan. I guess that he will never play for Villa. No, me neither. I don't think he'll ever play for Villa.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
I never expected him to be honest.
Yeah, being honest, I could order a pizza tonight and if he brought it to the door, I wouldn't have a clue.
So disrespectful, but also bang on.
I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. In fact, unless he was in a lineup with like 4 really fat blokes and him, and he was like one of these plays for Villa, that'd be the only way that I would. Even then, I'd
be like, "Is that Gabby?"
Yeah, exactly.
I'm joking.
Exactly. Hang on, they're wearing Kappa shirts. This is making it tricky.
Right, let's do the opposition preview section. This is where, Rob, we get to take a couple of minutes breather from the live show, and let's hear what a Brentford fan thinks. Thanks for joining us. You're a Brentford fan. Is the narrative around Brentford that they are a serious candidate for relegation, is that fair and accurate, do you think? Are you as doom and gloom as the narrative portrays?
I mean, I'd say it's definitely fair enough to say that. I think that the 3 teams who have come up this season are probably going to be stronger than in previous years. So the 3 up, 3 down streak, I would imagine, will end this season. The other thing about Brentford this season is that it's definitely going to be a transition season. We've had probably the worst transfer window in recent years in terms of outgoings. Lost best manager post-war, lost best player in recent years in Brian Mbeumo. Lost the club captain, and now losing Johan Wissa as well, who's Brentford's all-time Premier League top goal scorer. I mean, I don't know which team would survive those outgoings and expect to be fine. You'd like to think that enough of the continuity will be there in terms of, Keith Andrews was at the club last season. There's enough of the sort of same team around those key areas. We've replaced Mark Flecken really well and Kim and Kelleher. Jordan Henderson is an upgrade, I think, on Christian Norgard anyway. It will probably take time to gel. I think that whereas we've been looking at scraping into Europe in the last few years, I think now it's very much just let's just keep up this season. Let's keep in the Premier League and then look to build next year.
Brentford have got to do something, haven't they? They've got to try and get points wherever they can as soon as they can, almost to dispel that narrative. You might be fine. You might find something and you go, actually, we're okay here. You always seem to find a way. I don't think I did have you to go down, but I think I had you 17th. So it's pretty bad.
Pretty generous, I'd say. No, I mean, to be perfectly honest, the fixture list, obviously everyone plays everyone twice, but I mean, the fixture list to start the season is rough. Tomorrow's game might just simply be don't lose. If it's a case of picking up points little and often where we can, I don't think anyone's expecting, from the next 10 games to win 7 of them or anything like that. I think it's just a case of don't lose, which may sound very simple, getting points on the board wherever you can get them, rather than sort of, let's look to play really nice football and start battering teams. That's just not going to happen at the moment. It's very much a case of let's just not lose and get a point on the board and go from there.
Well, I don't think that'll be the case. What's your score prediction for tomorrow?
To be perfectly honest, I'm terrified of Ollie Watkins. He strikes fear into me whenever Brentford play Villa. I mean, I should say, last week against Forest, Brentford were missing quite a few players. They're back this week. Kevin Schade and Mikael Damsgaard are going to start, I'd imagine, and that just completely changes the way that Brentford play. So I'll go 2-1 Villa, but that's very much me being pessimistic. The hope is, a nice 2-0 win for Brentford.
Okay, well, hopefully your pessimistic thoughts are correct. Daniel, thank you very much for joining us, and all the best for tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Likewise.
Thank you to Daniel there for our opposition preview segment for this week's episode. There's a lot of doom and gloom around Brentford, and rightly so. A lot of people have got them in a bottom 3 for their predictions this season. Did you do that, Rob, by the way? Have you got them for going down?
I don't think I had, but the more I have thought about it.
After that 3-minute video.
yeah, having watched that from a Brentford supporter. I don't know. I still would think that they'd have enough about them. I'm interested to see how Keith Andrews gets on. My knowledge of him doesn't, in terms of his football understanding, doesn't extend any further really than seeing him on the Championship coverage when we were down there.
He's a pundit, wasn't he, as well?
But that said, he was very, very good. Very smart with what he was talking about. So, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to make for a good coach. Gary Neville's proof of that. But I think there's plenty for them to feel worried about. Damsgaard's a good player. They've got good players still in the side. But realistically, I think for us, we've got to be going down there thinking that we're going to beat them. And then if that is the case, they've started the season with 2 defeats, and it's heavy going from that point.
Yeah, but it is Forest and Villa as well, isn't it? So it's a bit like, well, do they expect to win either of those games? Probably not. Like, again, do you write off their season after the first 2?
I think it'll partly depend on the performance and the result, won't it? Because they got thumped off Forest, and clearly Ollie's not well behind the scenes at that football club. And Nuno's been very open about it today as well. I think it will be a really interesting one. I just hope we try and get on the front foot really, and get after them, and not so much of this passive walking football that we've seen too much of over the last 12 months from her.
Yeah, the player that might help us get on the front foot is Daniel Malen. RKA asked earlier on in the chat, Marlen's one-on-one... Sorry. Yeah, I completely misread that. Marlen's one-on-ones in pre-season were incredible. Totally deserves a start. We've spoken a bit about trying not to get too carried away with pre-season performances, good and bad. However, there's clearly a player in Marlen in the Premier League appearances he had last season, and I was going to say, Champions League ones.
3 in a row.
He looked good. He's got kind of a trademark finish. He's very, very quick. Yeah. Seems like a good lad. Feels like there's a space for him as well, and that probably adds to the extra level of frustration. We don't have much on the right side. Is he a right winger? No, I don't think so. But put him there, and I think he'd do okay. He'd want to come inside and cut across the keeper. That's what he wants to do. But you kind of picture Rodgers causing trouble physically, Watkins good runs, Marlen is a good runner as well. That feels like that should work somewhere, but we never get to see more than about 5 minutes of it.
Realistically, we don't. Our wide attacking midfielders, inverted commas, don't really play that wide, or certainly the one on the right side doesn't, which is where we saw Bailey thrive in his one good season that he had for us, where he was exceptional for most of it. And where Diaby looked good as well is getting into those, I hate to say the half spaces, because it makes me sound like a modern football whopper. But getting into those half spaces and, just causing trouble. You know, how do you mark him when he's not a winger, he's not an attacking midfielder, and he's not playing centre forward, and he's quick enough that if he spots a gap and the fullback's on the overlap, for instance, and it's going to come across the box, if the defence are turned round and everyone's running back towards their own goal, he's going to get there first.
Yeah, I
and
love
that's,
pace.
you know,
I love pacey
about the type of goal he's got from, you know, he's like a Champions League Trezeguet in terms of how he gets in at the back post and just seems to ghost in, and, you know, not even from close range, but just that area between the halfway between the post and the 18-yard line. You know, he just seems to appear there and be able to get it across goal with enough accuracy. He almost did it against Newcastle as well when he came on. Yeah. You know, enough accuracy and enough power to hit that far post. And, yeah, sometimes we just lack a little bit of those spontaneous goals that players like him can create.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to wrap up in a second. Just a question I want to quickly touch on from Johnny. Anyone think that Forest don't care about being penalised by the rules and will take the risk of a points deduction, but getting enough points? Now, we've spoken a lot about points deductions from a Villa perspective as well. Like, oh, you know, F the rules, we can do what we want, just take the points deduction, take the fine. And I don't think any club is willingly going to do that. Forest, I don't know, they're a bit of a basket case, aren't they? Who knows
who
what
knows
kind
with Marinakis?
Yeah, who knows what loophole they might have found rolling around the place. Quite literally, it looks like. That's harsh. The problem isn't necessarily just a points deduction that people are, do they care about that? You break the rules enough times, you get banned by UEFA. So if Forest finish fourth because they bought loads of new players, but then get banned from competing in the Champions League, then there's no gain for that. So clubs aren't going to continuously just break the rules. I think they've sold pretty well, and I would be amazed if Forest weren't in some kind of trouble next summer. But then you just activate a 70 million Gibbs White sale, don't you? Or a Murillo sale to Chelsea for 80 million, and they're back okay again. So I feel like Forest probably know they're in a decent enough position.
Sell a load of rubbish, no marks to Leon for a load of money. Speaking of conspiracy theories.
Well, that's enough conspiracy theory for one day.
That's almost a hat-trick, isn't it?
Let's wrap up with a score prediction where Rob thinks somebody will come off the pitch and score. Somebody will run in from the crowd and score a goal, and it'll be chalked out because it's not allowed. Some mad conspiracy theory. Right, the score predictions from last week, I am going to get John to fill in his for the sake of our fancy Excel spreadsheet. Last week I said 3-1 Villa. John said 2-2. Obviously it was 0-0. So John gets 1 point for getting the correct outcome. I get nothing. You get 3 points for the bang-on scoreline. I'm expecting goals tomorrow, and I want to see goals. I want to see a Villa go, oh no, and it's only Brentford, but we are good. Like, we can create. We do look lively. So I'm going 4-1. 4-1 Villa.
Crikey,
a couple of goals.
Crikey Moses. I think 2-0 Villa. And I think there's a chance we'll miss a load of chances. It's likely they'll miss a load of chances. We might come away with more questions than answers despite a 2-0 win. But I think potentially we might see a bit of a Bogard superstar performance, and then starting the season with 2 clean sheets.
Yeah, nice. I like another clean sheet. Yeah, one for Bizot, one for Martinez. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, Rob, thank you very much for stepping in. Like I say, it was mega late notice. I really appreciate it. John has since messaged me that he is home and apologises for his no-show. But these things happen, John. Do not worry. We will be back tomorrow with the post-match show. Again, it will be with a guest. I don't know who. Do you want to do it, Rob? I've not organised it yet.
If the missus lets me, depending what the score is. You know what it's like during the summer holidays.
Yeah, okay. We'll sort that out tomorrow. Thanks everyone for watching along live on this episode of the Climb Blue podcast. If you listened on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Spotify has a comment section and Apple Podcasts has a review system. So if you want to leave us a nice review, that would be lovely. Rob, thanks again. We will catch you tomorrow. Maybe not specifically you, but the audience listening. We'll see you tomorrow for hopefully a big fat thumping 4-1 Villa win. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.